Hi, everyone, and welcome. I see 148 people here and counting. So exciting to do an event together. So for those of you who are part of our open science community, welcome back. I think this is a familiar space, kind of. And for those of you who are new, welcome. Really excited to kick off the Connect conference, a virtual conference for 3 days, highlighting collaboration and why it's important in today's ecosystem of working in this technology and sharing some really fun research projects, but also opportunities for collaboration with everyone. So day one of Connect, it's going to be focusing on, I'll have a short talk in the beginning, and then we will dive right into some of our really successful community-driven research projects in the last couple of years. And this is a really good point. There's a lot of us here, and probably the chat. I would say just use the chat as much as you want for expressing your emotions and ideas. But the Q&A section of the Zoom call would be a really good place to collect in an organized way your questions about for different talks that we are going to go and have today. And feel free to just add questions because it's going to be lightning round talks and very quick. So we want to capture every question. Also, my suggestion, check out existing questions and upvote if there's something that you that is what you want to ask, so that there's a nice collection of questions that we have in the end to go through with at the panel, but also with the speakers during the talks. But also the chat is where you can just express. I'm loving seeing all of the people from Rwanda, Nigeria, Toronto, UAE, just seeing everyone expressing where they are from and how's the weather there, and maybe why you are here and what you're looking for to learn here. Cool. So today, like I said, I will kick off the conference, and we will have Joelle here as well. Oh, nice. She's already here. Great. And yeah, so excited to have her. And then we will have lightning talks. And again, question answering function for those who want to come up with questions. So let's start. If Britannia, if you can stop sharing maybe for a second so that we can all see each other's faces. Great. Welcome, Joelle, and let's officially kick off the Connect conference. I'm very happy to introduce Joelle. She joined Cohere as the Chief AI Officer recently, and I don't think she needs introduction. She has done extensive amount of work in research before at FAIR, establishing the fundamental AI research at Meta, and she has done a lot of interesting research in RL, robotics, and at Cohere. I will leave to her to share what she's doing here, but we are very excited to also have her as one of the leaders to lead Cohere Labs and the research direction for us. So without further ado, Joelle, take it away.
Thank you, Marzieh. Great to be here with all of you on this opening day of the Cohere Labs virtual conference. I do think this is an amazing community, and so it's really an honor for me to be here joining you today. I'm based in Montreal, Canada. We have snow on the ground today, and so love to see all of you who are joining us from warmer parts of the world. I've been in Montreal for a number of years. I'm a faculty member at McGill University, where I ran a Reasoning and Learning Lab for a number of years. I think Marzieh gave a quick overview of my research interests. Really, I came out of reinforcement learning. I used to do reinforcement learning where there were about 50 people in the world who knew what reinforcement learning was. Things have changed a little bit, but it took many years until we got there. Out of reinforcement learning, I started doing a lot of work in robotics, building nursing assistant robot, wheelchair robots. I started doing work in dialogue systems. if you can imagine what was the nature of dialogue systems back in the early 2000s, given the state of compute, the state of data, and also the technology back then. I started doing work on applications of AI to healthcare because I do believe there's amazing potential to use this technology in a way that transforms people's lives. And these four themes, I would say, reinforcement learning, healthcare, robotics, dialogue systems, are themes that have accompanied me through a couple decades now in this field. What's really interesting for those of you who are at the early stage of your career is to take some problem, a real problem in the world that if you solve makes a difference, and carry that problem through several years as you see the technology evolving, as we went from predictive AI to generative AI, now to agentic system. Every time it unlocks new capabilities for the problem that you care to solve. And so I have no doubt that many of you have real, concrete problems to solve in the world. And I do think having a broad community who looks at the world with different eyes from different vantage point, who sees different problems to solve, is one of the ways in which we're going to be able to really reach the full potential of AI. I joined Cohere less than 2 months ago, super early days. A few things really drew me to Cohere, I have to say. One of them is the strong community building orientation that it has, and in particular, the commitment to open science. 8 years prior to this, I joined Meta to lead an AI research team because at the time Meta was Facebook in those days, was the only company where the AI research team was fully focused on open science, on making sure that the result of the research go out, whether it's through papers, code, models, data sets. And through my 8 years or so at Meta, it was an immense privilege to contribute to projects such as Llama, Segment Anything, Dino, projects which now have been downloaded by billions of people around the world, perhaps some of you. And I strongly believe throughout all that time that it was in the interest of large companies to make these models open, free to use for the community. It means from a business point of view, the model got better faster. It means that we got to test out things in research before we brought them to product, and we got to benefit from the incredible innovation of the whole community. And that's a lesson that had been learned from the early days of PyTorch and that we carried out through these projects. Now, things are a little bit different in 2025, and it turns out that the best place to do open science in a way that actually opens up onto a community is at Cohere. It's one of very few places outside of the US and China where you can actually train models at scale and you can release them openly for people around the world to be using. So to me, it was really a no-brainer to be joining this amazing team who does great research. I will also say that one of the advantages of being at a company like Cohere is the business model is really focused on making AI, agentic AI, that is trustworthy, that enterprises can trust. And so that means a lot of the aspects of building AI in a responsible way, in terms of having security and privacy top of mind, having strong safety guarantees, having transparency standards, is integral to the success of the product. So the way that I care about building AI is the way that the company needs to build AI to succeed. And having that alignment, I think, is really very, very important today. In terms of where I'm excited about going next, you'll hear some of that through the presentations today. I've been working for the last couple of months with a team to establish the key research themes that we will be pushing forward. The Cohere team is relatively small in-house, but magnified through all of its community, I think can do really great things. One important direction of research is to really carry forward the work that the team has done on multi-language and building multilingual AI systems and broadening that up to building systems that take into account not only all the languages of the world, but also the cultural dimensions of AI. AI are not just language production engines. They're becoming multimodal. They're becoming agentic. And so having a dimension of multicultural aspects modeled is going to be increasingly important beyond just the languages. Of course, work on responsible AI continues to be a huge priority for the team. You'll hear about some of the results of past year, but I do think this is an area that is going to take even more importance, tackling head-on problems of hallucination, misinformation, problems of safety and privacy, I think continue to be important to build the AI that we want to use. One phrase that really sticks in my head at this vantage point, I have 4 children who are now, teenagers and young adults, and every day I feel I have to build the AI that my children are going to use. This isn't about just building AI that goes into the cloud. This is building the systems that we want our children to be using in decades to come. And from that prism, I think we have an incredible responsibility in terms of what we are building. Last but not least, in terms of research areas, I think this notion of building AI not as a singular super intelligence, but building AI that has social intelligence, building AI where the agents work together, where the agents work with individuals, with societies, with institutions, is incredibly important. So this notion of collaboration, cooperation, how do we build that into our AI system, I think is an important theme of research. And I've had lots of good discussion with the Cohere Labs team. I hope it permeates through the next few days in terms of research topics. This is really like what we do in terms of research, but a really important ingredient is how do we do research? And I would say this is probably the most durable part of the agenda for our research labs, such as this one, the commitment to doing research in collaboration, the realization that we are building on results from decades of work, and we are putting the seeds for decades of work going forward is really important. So I do think this event, bringing this community together, there's this event, but there's several events throughout the year to bring the group together is really, really quite important. The collaboration between industry, academia, government, civil society, an important aspect of how we do this work. And the commitment to continuing the tradition of open science and open research, sharing the artifacts of our work globally to people who can improve them, who can critique them, who can observe them, who can build on them, continues to be incredibly important. I know we have many members of this community who are active in terms of fostering open research. I celebrate the work that you are doing, all of you, towards that. I appreciate it. I'm here to sponsor it, to recognize it, and amplify it going forward. Couldn't be more thrilled to be here, to be doing this work with you. I hope we have many more events together where we can interact and learn from each other. With that, let me close. Welcome, glad to have you here, and I'm going to pass it back to Marzieh and the organizing team. Thank you.
Thanks, Joelle. That was great, and really excited to have you on board. Nice. So let me start the right. I think everyone should be seeing my presentation. Yeah, we have a packed program today, so really excited to get started. And I just wanted to very briefly, for the newcomers who are not really familiar who we are, Cohere Labs, to just briefly introduce ourselves and adding to what Joelle mentioned about this big part of our mission is doing good research in open science community. So really building a new ecosystem of how research is done right now in AI. And we are a very small team. We have the luxury of a really nice community of researchers who are excited to collaborate. And with our small team, we have published for the past 3 years over 100 papers at different conferences and released 2 family of models, in particular AYA models, which are the multilingual. One of the first, actually, when we started 3 years ago, the multilingual models. And I'm very excited to go through some of the lessons learned from these collaborations in the community as part of the researches that we did in the past 3 years, today and tomorrow. And we also really committed to helping emerging researchers to get involved in research who are interested to do that. As part of that, we have this annual research scholars program that we are running every year. And these are some of our biggest research bets that we work with people who are more on the junior side, who might not have the opportunity to uh, right away to get involved in more uh, uh, bigger institutions. And for instance, if they want to continue doing their PhDs, but they have a lot of potential. And we are very proud to have been working with people from around the world to provide this opportunity to really create the next generation of researchers who end up joining Cohere or going forward to do their PhDs after finishing the program. And the community, the Open Science Initiative that we have, is a big part of our the identity of our lab. A lot of you are from this community and have been for many years. Uh, and it's a very active community. There are multiple subgroups and events going on at the same time. If you're interested in a particular niche and area of research or topic, you can find like-minded people in this community. Go to the reading groups, form collaborations there. And as part of this community and working closely with people there, we have also been able to publish a lot of impactful research in the last couple of years. But let me step back and look at why we really want to highlight collaboration and working together as the main theme of this conference. There are many complex systems in the world that almost all of them are not really built individually, but really as part of a network. And from biology to economics to AI and research. And why it's really important is that because collaboration will expand the space of ideas. And the more essentially what you end up thinking about, the benchmarks that you end up working with, the methods that you think about are going to be limited to what you have experienced so far. But the more you collaborate with people, you are actually moving out of this isolation of the familiar space and expanding what what else is out there and what you can learn in terms of just what you really want to then explore as interesting research questions. And something that I really believe is that when we look at the last decade in particular, there have been a lot of breakthroughs through scaling of compute, data, models, parameter sizes, but there's also the social aspect of scaling, and that is scaling participation and getting more people involved in creation of this technology. And when we talk about participation, one of the first things that also comes to mind when scaling participation is creation of data sets. But that's not just, let's not limit participation to just that. Really, how we think about scaling participation is who really ends up framing research questions, who looks at the model behavior and interpret how it's doing, and really what success looks like according to different people who are involved in research. So with that in mind, we intentionally are holding this conference as a virtual and global conference. So this is a map of all of the registered people for the conference, truly from around the world. And our hope is that we can connect people by the end of this conference. People who share the same interest in research, have the same curiosity about what is interesting, what is important to work on right now, without really the limitations of geography and who you know, who you are familiar with, and really expanding your horizon on the type of problems that you can work on. And really with this cross-region and cross-disciplinary collaboration, the hope and the goal in the end is to increase the surface area of the search space that you will be working on. And just to get a little bit more less abstract and more practical, what does really collaboration look like? And It can be on a small scale, just working a couple of people together um, on ideation, experiments, and iterative thinking. It can also be on a much larger scale, a lot of times involved with data collection or making impact in terms of changes in policy that really needs like more larger scale point of view. But really how it feels like it's a little bit more different and nuanced. Like a lot of times collaboration is really two people looking at one paper together and talking about what it looks like. Maybe like a few people learning a particular method and then re-implementing the outcome of a paper or looking at a published evaluation and discuss maybe the anomalies there. So it can be really very small individual talks and discussions that can compound to a more tangible and valuable outcome. And a lot of times collaboration, especially global collaboration, will look like this. A lot of async alignment and talks, and whether it's like weekly Zoom calls or sharing a document that everyone can leave their feedback and their opinion and just building a research idea together. And just constant communication between everyone on the team. We started the AYA initiative 3 years ago, and we learned through that process. The first initiative, it took 1 year, that there's also this aspect of collaboration that you have to have fun in the end with people that you want to work with. So as part of a lot of the work of AYA was the curation of this data set and the models that cover 101 languages in the end. But there was also a lot of parts that was about just sharing the music that everyone was enjoying around the world, sharing pictures, doing a recipe exchange. And I'm sharing this here because I think there's this part of the social and connection part of collaboration that might be overlooked sometimes. And we do need this some bond in the end so that to have a successful collaboration. And don't really underestimate the power of connecting to people first before jumping on an important research question that you want to work on together. And as part of this collaboration, we actually ended up creating the AYA initiative, which has become much bigger than we even expected from beginning. And I'm very excited to go through some of the details of this journey in this conference as well. And other than AYA, which was a really large group of people coming together, in the next 3 days, we are also showcasing the large spectrum of research that is possible through collaboration. So AYA is a really big example, but there are also more smaller groups of people working together on the global MMLU and the Include project, for instance, or even smaller group of people working on AfriAya or Maya and NeoBubble papers. So there are all essentially different ways of working together at different scale. And a lot of times we see the paper, which is the end result, but we don't hear the story behind it, how this group of people got together, worked through all of the challenges and created that research outcome. And our hope for this conference is that we learn that. And like I said, really scaling participation, I truly think that this will be the next breakthrough. So the more people are involved in what research questions are important, how to interpret the results, and where to explore to find interesting research questions next, the more we will get closer to really capturing this human intelligence that with this technology we are hoping to capture. And with that, I'm going to wrap up and just share that this conference is, in the end, an open invitation for everyone to talk to each other, get inspired, find people who share your same interest as you. Start small. It doesn't have to be the largest end goal in the beginning. And yeah, let's work together. Thanks. And with that, I'm going to pass on to the official start of the conference and the lightning talks. Before that, let me just quickly see, are there any particular questions that we want to go through now? Madeline or Britannia, do you see any questions for me, or should we just jump into the next?
I think we should jump into the
Okay.
talks. We've got lots to cover today. If there's anything we missed, we'll try to get to it on our community afterwards. But Britannia's just
Yeah, that
fine.
sounds good. Great. So let's start with the lightning talks. And I'm very happy to introduce the first speakers, Fadaee and Wei. So we go way back. It's really good to see both of you guys here as part of the original Team 1 and Team 3 in Aya now three years ago. And they're going to be sharing the story behind building this massively multilingual model and data set. And without further ado, I'm going to pass on to both of you.
Thank you so much, Marzieh. Yeah, and hi everybody. I'm Freddie, and we're talking about building a massively multilingual LLM and data set. Okay, cool. First slide. Yeah, so Wei and Marzieh and I met a few years ago through Cohere Labs, and yeah, we're here to talk about the work behind two papers we published, the Aya dataset and Aya model, which received a Best Paper Award at ACL 2024. Okay, next slide. Okay, so let's talk about first, like one of the many things that we worked on was that we built an annotation platform. And basically what it was a Python backend and React front end that we built so that contributors from all over the world could review and edit model prompts and completions across over 100 languages so that we could build a multilingual instruction fine-tuning data set across many tasks like classification, generation, question answering, and translation. And then contributors could also rate and review each other's work to further improve the data. And while building this platform, there were a bunch of different challenges, but I'm going to talk about just three of them briefly. So one of them was one of the challenges with any project of this scale is ensuring we keep people engaged on the platform and feel like they're being rewarded in some way. So to do this, we maintained a leaderboard for daily, weekly, and overall activity, and also across languages, where contributors were scored based on their Aya score, which essentially was a way to measure quality on the annotation platform. And this accounted for their submissions and reviews from other contributors. A second challenge was around having rich metadata to inform UI decisions. So two examples of this were language identification and script information. So some languages can be called by one or more names, and some languages are read from left to right or right to left. But for some languages, for example, that were like low resource, it was hard to find reliable info about what was most accurate or commonly used. So we had to reach out to humans that actually spoke these languages to make sure that their culture and that their language is represented correctly. And then the third challenge was balancing user experience and ease of use with actually shipping out useful features that enable high quality data collection. So things like clear instructions, making it really easy to follow, like anything that basically made it so that people would not be distracted from the kind of main goal of reviewing, editing, and submitting data for their language and culture. It was always something that we needed to improve on. And that's just three of many challenges with this, but I'm going to pass it off to Wei to talk about what happened once we actually had this data.
Thanks, Freddie. Hey, everybody, my name is Wei and I work at Cohere on the multilingual team. Actually, largely thanks to this project, which is my first multilingual project. Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about the challenges we face, which, the basics, you have to build indentation, like what Freddie talked about, collect data, train model evaluation. I do want to point out that both Freddie and I are like just small component in this massive project. So like my focus was on the translation part. So a big part of what I do is I try to figure out how to translate fast and efficiently on basically using the available compute we have. And one anecdote I'll share is that I think through this exercise, I learned just how expensive Google Translate can be. I think I was the first person to rack up the biggest one-time bill here at Cohere Labs. So the fact they still let me in afterwards is all thanks to them. But we ended up using the NLLB translation model because it's a amazing language coverage, and also we were able to run it on a GPU, A100 GPUs, and run it for like basic a month, and that was still cheaper than using Google Translate for what we're trying to do. Just think about that. All right. So the bigger challenge that I would say that comes from this project is actually the communication part. Here on the right side, you can see that all the channels that we have on Discord for this project, at least the ones that I'm involved in. Yeah, so there was like a 3,000 contributor and 5 AI teams, and here you can see here. I mentioned cleaning data sets specifically because I remember one day somebody in this call actually woke me up at like 2 a.m. and told me about like some issues with some of the translation data sets. So I stayed on the 5 a.m. To clean this. So it's like that definitely runs into my mind a bit. But working with all of these people across the world around different time zones, that was I would consider the biggest challenge. But I feel like thanks to this experience, I got to work with people from all over the world, which is awesome. I think it's very, very rare to have opportunity like this, specifically in ML research. And I think it was great to do this. I learned so much about different languages, and I learned so much about like how people think about AI in different languages. Because some people use this as a platform to basically preserve their language, especially for lower resource languages. So I thought that was fascinating. Yeah, and then I just platforms like wow, just look it's just like these colors all over the world. It's amazing. Yeah, and I realized that this is the exact same slide that the Marzieh shared. So you already saw this. Basically, for same information that I copied from the website. But these are all the stats, from this project. It's just incredible, and the fact that I still see so many of you collaborators like today here on this call, just speaks to like how this project really connected everybody. And with that, I will pass it up to Shivalika.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne and Freddie, for that lovely throwback to the IO project. Hi everyone, I'm Shivalika. I'll be talking about another a lovely open science initiative that we ran last year, which was Global MMLU. And we actually presented this work at ACL 2025 this year in Vienna. And again, very happy to be presenting this work on behalf of the whole team here at Connect. Um, so, um, as many of you know, many multilingual benchmarks often rely on translating popular English benchmarks like MMLU, and this translation can often introduce artifacts known as translationalese, which can distort the meaning or the clarity of the questions in the target language. And biases stem not only from differences in the language, but also from the cultural knowledge that may be required to interpret the questions, reducing the practical utility of translated data sets like MMLU. So just to give you an example, here there are questions from accounting and US history taken from MMLU, and the question on the left talks about a sales article specific to the US. The one on the right talks about the US Constitution. So these are both examples of questions that require knowledge specific to US. To quantify this sort of knowledge better, we conducted a large-scale cultural bias study on MMLU, and we tried to identify culturally sensitive versus culturally agnostic subsets of MMLU. We worked with lots of volunteers who And we asked them whether answering a question from MMLU required knowledge of a specific culture or region or dialect. And if it did, then we marked those questions as culturally sensitive. And if it did not, then we labeled those questions as culturally agnostic. And one of the key findings of this cultural bias study was that around 28% questions in MMLU required cultural context to be answered correctly, and regional knowledge was the most frequently tagged bias, followed by cultural knowledge. And a bunch of questions also required a mix of these knowledge tags to be answered correctly. The second important finding was that 85% of the questions that required cultural context to be answered correctly also required models to excel at Western-centric references, which was also highlighted by some of the examples that I showed earlier. And along with this cultural bias study, we also built a new evaluation dataset called Global MMLU, and we built this using two key steps. One was engaging with human annotators to identify the culturally sensitive agnostic subsets of MMLU, as I explained earlier. And once we did that, we translated those into 42 languages, but then we further engaged with professional and community volunteers to improve the quality of the translation in all of these languages. We also evaluated a bunch of open and closed models on these culturally sensitive and agnostic subsets of global MMLU, and we found that performance is actually more variable across languages on the culturally sensitive subset because these demand deeper contextual understanding, making them more susceptible to translation quality variations, which actually impacts the performance. Moving And so there's a lot of detailed analysis in the paper that I recommend you check out. We also have Global MMLU integrated with eval harness. You can easily access the data using Hugging Face or Kaggle. We recently also published a leaderboard on Kaggle, which I highly recommend checking out. This was the result of a huge collaboration with our open science community, which actually helped in improving the data across all of these different languages. It was a big part of the IA expedition that we ran last year, which is a research hackathon that we run. This was all possible because of the effort from the community. And it's actually been great to see people come back to add more languages to global MMLU. And I'll be sharing more on that later. Overall, it's been great to see the adoption of the benchmark since its launch. And with that, I'll hand over to the next speaker, Yong.
Hi everyone, my name is Yong, and today I'm presenting our work on effective multilingual reasoning via test time scaling of English reasoning language models. So this is our key research question. We see that a lot recently reasoning language models has been part of many headlines where they can generate long chain of thought, which is their reasoning chains, and then is able to solve complex reasoning problems, including IMO and also coding questions. So this is also known as the new paradigm called test time scaling. Our research question is that because these reasoning language models are trained in English only, what happens if we were to do test time scaling on them or multilingual reasoning tasks? So how our collaboration with Cohere unfolded was that a few of us who work on multilingual modeling began to think about this problem of multilingual test time scaling, and we formed a group and we collaborated with Julia because she was mentoring a scholar on inference decoding and was working on a reasoning benchmark at WMT. So we're thinking that her insights would be really, really beneficial during the start of our project, and actually she was such a great help that everyone in the open science community was so productive. We were able to finish this project in just 3 months. And this is our paper was out, and that this is a cross-constitutional collaboration with people from MBZUAI, of course Cohere Labs, and also Stanford, Capital One, and so on. So what are our key findings? First, In this graph, we are showing that how when the model is only 1.5B models, increasing the number of thinking tokens, which is the x-axis, does not improve the performance. But once it crossed 3 billion parameter size, now when you would increase the maximum number of thinking tokens, we see the average accuracy on MGSM, which is one of the math multilingual reasoning benchmark, increases. And in fact, this trend holds across models beyond 3B model sizes, where here the graph is showing models on 7B, 14B, and the 32 billion parameter sizes. And now you might be asking, how will it perform for both high resource and low resource languages? Would there be any performance disparity between them? But we see that when we increase the number of thinking tokens, which is making the model think longer, we see that for all different languages, there's a substantial increase when you would let the model think longer, which is more than 40% across both high and low resource languages. So what exactly is this English reasoning model doing when it's thinking? Here, we found this really cool phenomenon called quote and explain pattern, where here in the input, we are providing a Japanese input, and what we see the model, when it's thinking, it had exhibit this emergent phenomenon, where it's quoting phrases from the input question to think about it, what the answer would be. Here, you'll be thinking that problem says something, and that because white is half of blue, therefore 2 plus 1 equals 3. And then it also thinks by saying that if the question has asked a different scenario, the answer would have been different. So this sophisticated reasoning goes beyond just taking the input in English, taking the input in non-English, translate into English, and think through it. It is exhibiting sophisticated reasoning here. So what are the things we could do to take our work to the next step? Well, first we found that when the model is asked to reason in low resource languages, the chain of thought or the reasoning being generated is usually not that fluent. And second, we see that there's no performance gain when it comes to multicultural, multilingual benchmarks. So here we evaluated on 2 different benchmark Kopal ID, which asks about Indonesian culture, and FOG, which is English food common sense knowledge. And here we see that when we ask the model to think longer, to generate longer reasoning chains, the model performance actually dropped, or at least we didn't see any performance gains for these 2 benchmarks. And we welcome more collaboration if any of you interested in working on the future work. Thank you. And I will pass out to Nathaniel and Mohammed on how good are large language model at multi-session coding interactions.
Hey everyone, my name is Nathaniel, and Mohammed and I are going to present our work, how good are large language models at multi-session coding interactions. So this work started when Marco Del Tridici sent this message on Discord about collaborating in this project, and this shows how important open science and open collaboration is. So we asked the following research question: can large language models be used as teammates? So we envision a scenario where a coding agent, large language model, is collaborating with a human in a company. So they talk about a lot of things, but at some point, the person gives coding instructions to the coding agent, the language model, and then she expects the model to follow these instructions. So in order to evaluate this, we built a synthetic multi-session dataset called memory code, and we evaluate large language models' ability to track and follow multiple coding instructions among everyday talk. So to get a clearer picture, a dialogue, we call a dialogue a sequence of sessions. For example, here we have a dialogue with 10 sessions. And a session is just a sequence of turns where here we have Alice and Bob. So Alice is the person, Bob is the coding agent. And the way we build the dataset is that we have these fillers. So fillers are just any discussions that is not about coding, like is there a dress code here, or maybe Alice asks, can I work from home? But then at some point, the human gives coding instructions like when you write functions, always end them with _n, or when you name attributes, include the string chx. And these instructions can be updated throughout the conversation. And then at the end of the dialogue, we ask the model to write a function, and then we evaluate if a model followed the instructions. To build this data set, we build these templates where we gather people's names, instructions. We have 51 coded instructions and fillers. And then using this template, we ask Comment R plus to generate the dialogues that we use to, then use these dialogues to, as evaluation, a benchmark for these language models. Now, Mohammed will present how language models perform on this data set.
Thanks, Karaz. We evaluated the models in 4 different settings: direct instructions, a single session, short and long history corresponding to conversations with less or more than 15 sessions, respectively. In direct instructions, as we see, all models, even the smaller ones, show a comparable high score, except for Llama 8B, also still a high score. Performance slightly decreases when models are provided with the whole session, but severely decreases in the history setting, with dramatic drop in performance in the case of long history setting. As we see here, performance decreases as the number of sessions increases. This could be either a retrieval problem or that the models are struggling with following multiple instructions simultaneously. So we tested one more setting in which a model is provided with the instructions directly without any filler dialogue. And we call this setting instructions chain. If retrieval was the problem, then we should expect improvement in performance. And if not, then we have a multi-instruction following problem. Which one is it? As we can see, the trend is strikingly similar to when models were provided the full dialogue history. One reason for this multi-instruction problem could be the updating instructions. So we defined the update rank, which is the number of times an instruction is updated throughout the dialog history, ranging from 0, no updates, to a maximum of 7. Performance is almost not affected by the instruction rank, suggesting that the poor performance is primarily due to the difficulty following multiple changing instructions across long context. Feel free to check our paper. Code and data are available on GitHub and Hugging Face. Now I'll leave you for Maya with Nahid, Kartik, and Suraya. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Hi, this is Nahid. I'm going to talk about Maya, building an open multilingual multimodal model. And today I have Kartik and Surya, who are the co-leads for this project with me. Yeah, so I guess like how this project got started. So this was like early 2024, and at that time, multilingual LLM actually existed. But there was a gap. At least at that point, there are not so many multimodal version of these multilingual models. So, this kind of like, I think if you look at the picture on the right, you'll see that this was done on May 29, 2024. The question that I asked myself that what if we build a multimodal Aya, essentially. So that's why the name is Maya. And the proposal was submitted in the channel, and you see that I think Kartik was there on top, and there are other collaborators, and I think Sarah was especially very excited about it. That's how we got started. Yeah.
So we have been doing our Maya for like a little more than 6 months, and we want to share some of the hard-learned lessons that will benefit who wants to start in open science research or who are in the start of their open science journey. So the first thing that you really want to have like clear is that what you really want to achieve at the end of the project, because making that thing clear can like helps you evaluate how far are you from the goal that you are trying to reach. And The one more thing is like people will be coming from the like a lot of different backgrounds and also a lot of different like time zones, and also you need to be understandable in terms of like what are all the commitments that they are gonna give. So you'll be having like a lot of motivation challenges in terms of like, even we had that issue where when we first started, like we won like most promising team in our expedition. Still then we had like motivation challenges, like some of them like kind of went AWOL. And even we had like a couple of conference rejections that further tested the morale of the team. So what made us kind of succeed those kind of things is like we made like clear task on what exactly needs to be done by each person, and we also had like kind of things across like different time zones so that everyone can join and contribute their opinions to the project. And also we had like one thing that really stressed is having like firm deadlines on what everyone needs to do, such that like people will be more excited. Okay, we have some deadline, so we want to move towards that. And like one more thing that we had is that like there are a lot of issues that you'll come across in terms of like not getting the enough results for the model, for the evaluation or the rejections of the paper. So you need to get back from that kind of failures. And the one thing that really matters is that like how you wanna position your contribution to the community. That makes like a lot of sense in terms of telling the community what you have really done. So that way we kind of reframed our contribution, and that kind of had our acceptance into CVPR. And we also reached beyond like single community. Like we have started with Cohere Labs, then we also reached with a couple of people from different backgrounds. And like on a whole summary, like this how we can say as like reality of open science. Throughout the project, like you'll have like motivation like up and down, but when you are having a low motivation, you need to reevaluate yourself and try to get back from that failures.
Yeah, thank you, Surya and Nahid, for sharing those information. Yeah, some of the results over here I want to cover, like the key achievements of Maya were we released the first multilingual pre-trained data set that consists of image and text pairs, which is of 4.4 million pairs across 8 languages. Each language is about 550K data set. And this is also toxicity free on both the ends, on the image side and on the text captions as well. So we removed almost like around 8,000 image text pairs, which are having toxicity. And we open source the data set, the code, the model, the weights, all supporting 8 languages. And we had a couple of model downloads in the early days, and now it's even boosting. And we had the dataset downloads as well. Now, after this, we have 2 papers accepted at CVPR Workshop 2025. The first one is Understanding and Mitigating Toxicity within the pre-trained datasets. It is also accepted as oral presentation at Responsible Generative AI Workshop. And Behind Maya at VLMs for All Workshop 2025. So we explained about the architecture, everything, how we were able to design the project and what were the outcomes, etc. Next, just a second. Yeah, this is Team Maya who helped us to accomplish this project successfully. We are also doing a version 2 right now. We are focusing on 2 approaches, the data-centric and the model-centric approach. Currently, we are tackling the data-centric approach. This time, we'll do even more better work. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. And I think we are at the end of the lightning talks. Congrats to all of the great work, and thanks for sharing all of these really interesting and different perspectives of how research projects can start. Some of these projects, there was a post on Discord, someone had an idea, someone else thought that's interesting, joined and ran with the idea. Some of the ideas from our team, Cohere Labs, we shared on Discord. Some of them, it's actually initiated from the community itself. So really a nice spectrum of how different collaborations can start. And I, in particular, also really love the lessons learned that you shared, that the Maya team shared, and how persistence is important to get a research project to the finish line. And all of these are just really the learning process of doing research. There's a technical aspect of really diving into a research question, trying to solve a technical problem, but there's also growing as researchers, working together, what you learn and how you do that. That is really important. And we hope in our community and also as part of this conference, we can connect everyone together and help them in growing in their research journey. And with that, I want to introduce the panel that we will have next. And it's actually a really nice, like my pleasure to introduce Shivalika, who is going to be chairing the panel. She is right now part of Cohere Labs team. She's a research engineer in our team. But we actually started working together as part of the initial AYA 3 years ago. She started as the ambassador for her language and then became, I think, the region lead and really got involved in the AYA data set. She ended up contributing really valuable, detail-oriented contributions to the AYA paper in the end, and is the first author of the AYA dataset paper. And it was really nice that we also got a chance to meet a year after that collaboration, and she joined our team. So really excited. Since then, we have worked, the two of us actually have worked on a few really impactful projects over the last year and a half, including the leaderboard illusion paper, which has been a really impactful work. And today she is going to be talking to the lovely people in the community from which you've heard the particular research projects that they shared. But this discussion can also go beyond the details of the projects, but include also how they think about collaboration, what really excites them in this area. And I'll stop here and I hand it over to Shivalika.
Yeah, thank you, Marzieh, for the very kind introduction. And hello, everyone. Welcome to our Idea to Impact AMA session. I'm really personally very excited about today's panel because some of the most frequently asked queries that we get on our Discord are usually around how to get started with research collaborations. What does it take to go from an idea to a paper that can actually be impactful? So I wanted to take the opportunity today to share experiences of some of our collaborators from our Cohere Labs open science community. And they're here to basically answer your questions about getting involved in AI research, any lessons that they might have learned along the way. So feel free to shoot your questions using the Q&A feature on Zoom. And so with that, let's welcome our panelists. You've just heard their amazing lightning talks. And so now I would like to invite them to join us. So huge welcome to Nahid, Yong, Nathaniel, and Mohammed. And yeah, it's really great to see all of you again.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us, Shivalika. No hard question, please.
No, definitely not. Yeah. So actually, yeah, so I'll first I'm going to first ask some questions that I have prepared for each of you, and then we'll switch to the questions from the audience. And so yeah, Nahid, let's start with you since you're like one of the most experienced members in our community, and you've been with us since the early days of our lab, and you've been engaged in so many different ways. I was curious, what are your top 3 suggestions to a new member that's joining our community and making the most out of it?
Yeah, thanks for asking me. Yeah, I think like when you ask this question, I think of myself like when I was joining, right? So I think someone joining new, it can be there can be broadly like 2 ways. One is like if their experience is new overall in this area versus like maybe sometimes like for me, like I was coming from more of an engineering background, so there are certain background I had, but not really kind of CVPL level publishing experience, right? So depending on that, your path can change. So so someone like who is kind of less or starting kind of beginner in AI, I mean, they can, I would suggest that they look around the community and there are like many channels and like what is it that they find interesting, right? And so that's kind of like developing that sense and taste. And there are channels where like sometimes we share like some paper published somewhere or like someone sharing ideas for feedback. So if you find something interesting that sort of aligns with you, like start brainstorming, start collaborating there and like kind of go from there. Like for me personally, like I'm a very like I have to do things, otherwise I don't really learn. So but your learning style can be different, like so that is another like specifically, like if you are coming from like more engineering background, I guess, like then you have a set of like set of foundation, set of like background that you kind of want to extend on, right? So for me, I really want to, so I have a computer vision background, so anything I do in my mind, it needs to have some sort of vision, like either image or video, and then within that I can expand on like either bring some language or audios or do like maybe some reinforcement learning techniques. So but the base was kind of like, okay, I have to have this kind of thing. So like if you are coming with I don't know, some another vertical of experience, right? So accordingly that you can choose. So yeah, so that is probably the top two, and then like start like putting your ideas for collaboration. I guess like that's probably the third thing, and go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of those suggestions. Like it depends on your existing experience level, and it's also useful to find go to the channels that might be relevant according to your interest on our Discord, and definitely like if you have any ideas, even if they are half-baked ideas, we have these channels like No Bad Ideas and Find Collaborators where you can just pitch in, and you can often find people who would be interested in working on improving those ideas with you. And I love that that's actually how the Maya project came to be. Like it was really fun to see that like form so organically in our Discord. Yeah, so I totally agree with all of those suggestions. Okay. So moving on to our next panelist, Yong. So, Yong, you've initiated and led major efforts in multilingual safety and test time scaling. My question to you was, what are 1 to 2 guiding principles that shape how you start and drive a successful collaboration?
Thanks, Shivalika, for inviting me part of the panelists and also for the great question. I think the first guiding principle that I have been using is more of like before any collaboration or when I'm trying to form a collaboration, I try to have a concrete research plan, but I'm still trying to be loose enough for interesting things to happen. I can share a little bit more about how our project on the cross-lingual reasoning or cross-lingual test time scaling happened to become. So when we started the collaboration, we were thinking that, well, all these models are just trained on English reasoning data. We probably need to curate our own multilingual reasoning data and then to create a multilingual reasoning model. Then we started running baseline, which is like taking, I think, one of the open model that was state of the art at that time, S1 model, that's just trained on 1,000 English samples. And we're like, wow, this baseline is really beating all other models in the benchmark if we evaluated on. So we were like, why don't we just look into this model deeper and see what are the things we can understand about their behavior, because their behavior is so surprising. So it goes from originally wanted to create a multilingual reasoning model to become we're just studying how well would an English trained reasoning model generalize across different settings. So our North Star at that time was trying to understand multilingual reasoning, but we keep our collaboration loose enough in terms of what deliver it would be to allow such a pivot. So I think that's one of the guiding principles, that having a North Star at the back of our mind, but also being flexible enough to let interesting insights to guide our collaboration. I think the second principle that I kind of still trying to learn on or trying to use is trying to communicate to each of the members in the collaboration about how we contributing specifically, like how each of us can bring to the team to be able to make the project work. I think that was one of the lessons I learned from working on multilingual safety survey, where originally I was thinking of maybe we want to have a bigger team because we wanted to make the survey cover as many people's work as possible. But I realized that at the very end, we would like to focus on more of like the insights each of us can provide, and having a smaller team allows that breathing room for everyone to contribute. And that a lot of times when we were to evaluate the contribution, we realized that once we were to make the role specific and how each person can contribute to it, that is when we realize how big the collaboration should be and how exactly that delivery will come into the big picture. Yeah, so that's my two guiding principles on how I approach collaboration.
Yeah, that's great to hear, Yong. I especially agree with the second one regarding how smaller teams can be impactful, and how having clear boundaries and clarity about who will be working on what is so important, and how that can shape a collaboration in a meaningful way. With that, I'll move on to our next panelist, Mohammed. So you're actually pretty experienced in open source style research collaborations. You've been part of IR, data provenance, MMT, EB. In your opinion, what are the easiest ways for someone to get started with contributing to open science initiatives?
Thanks, Jivalika. Starting is always the hardest part, but it doesn't have to be actually. So based on my experience, I think the most effective way to get started is to join a community sharing your interest and engage with it. For example, there are several amazing Discord server Cohere Labs, Open Science that you have just heard about, on which people are actively looking for collaborations. Another one is GitHub. By keeping an eye on your favorite repositories, you will find several issues that are asking for contributions. Many of these contributions can lead to big collaborations. And the most important thing is don't be afraid to start small. Many small things can be a seed of several large collaborations. So yeah, that's just it in brief. And this is what I did actually.
Yeah, I highly recommend those too. And one thing I'll add on top is, like, whenever you see an ongoing open science project, it's always good to start taking ownership of certain tasks, and becoming the go-to person for certain tasks. And it not only helps you get more exposure on the project, but it also helps in building a good working relationship with the collaborators on the project, and that automatically opens up future doors for future opportunities. So that's also a way to, stay keeping involved and being part of more future collaborations. Yeah. Okay. So with that, we'll move on to our next panelist, Nathaniel. So you've also had a pretty interesting research journey. You've been part of big IA-style research projects, and you've also authored your own first author papers. My question to you was, what's one underrated, either technical or soft skill that's critical for successful research collaboration?
Thanks, Shivalika. So I think one very underrated skill is the ability, or rather the willingness, to expand your network. So meet people, get to know people, talk to them, and connect. for real. So if you have the opportunity to go to conferences or summer schools or workshops, and when you get there, like actually talk to people and get to know them. So actually, my very first collaboration was with people that I met during a summer school. And yes, the work that I just presented, my very last collaboration was with Marco Del Federici, and I met him at our university. But also, I had already met all the people from Cohere Labs. So I think it's very important to expand this network. And also, it's going to be very important later. For example, if you want to get research positions or internships or a faculty position. So you already know the people, maybe you get recommendation so that it's easier for you to get in because it's very competitive. Yeah.
That's great, Nathaniel. Yeah, I definitely agree. Networking is so important. And yeah, definitely everyone should capitalize on that more. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the next part of our Q&A, which is taking questions from the audience. So I'll do a quick scan of our Q&A section and try to uh, like ask you some of the questions that have been posted in the Q&A chat. So I see one question from Jagjit. I'm interested in helping organize community activities, things like coordinating weekly meetings, facilitating collaboration, and connecting contributors. Does Cohere Labs have roles or pathways for people who want to support the community in that capacity? And if so, what's the best way to get involved? Nahid, do you want to take that one? I think you're like the best equipped on the panel to answer that.
Yeah, sure. I think I would say like join the Discord. Join. I think there is a process for joining like somewhere on the web. I think Marilyn has the link probably. So join the Discord and kind of like look what other channel already exist. If one of them aligns with what you want to do, you can join them as a co-organizer, or like if you want to start creating a new group, you can like bring another co-leads at least, and then there's a process for that. I think Madeline and Brittany are like more than happy to help you with that. So yeah, it's definitely possible. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, Nahid. So guys, if there are more questions, please keep adding them in the chat. I see a lot of them have already been answered, but I would love to hear more questions from you guys that I can ask our panelists. In the meantime, Yong, I had a question for you. Have you ever had a project stall, and what helped you to get it moving again?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think most of the collaborative project I have experience with have that stalling period where basically we were just like either someone has done something really, really similar where we are thinking like how do we pivot, like how should we release our work? Do we just stop here because our work is getting scooped? Or I think the most likely or the most frequent cases is just that the experiments were just not going in the direction we wanted. Basically, our hypothesis is wrong, and then we had to pivot from there. I think things that I often do is that I just keep the communication open, where we're just trying to be really transparent about our findings and how exactly the things we are looking for, like what exactly is the thing that we're looking for that will have allow our work to move forward. I think I try to be transparent and keep the communication open so everyone has the space to be able to chime in and give their feedback on the results. That usually helps with stalling, but sometimes where the experiments that's being suggested was just not working. I think in that case, we're usually trying to go back to the drawing board and think about how we approach the problem. Usually it would take about a month or few months to just get back to the drawing board and just brainstorm about how exactly we move on from there. But I think open communication has been the key aspect to getting through this storing period, because once people have time and have different experiences and they have been able to take time to like read papers or be able to discuss with other people, then we can all bring our own thoughts into the discussion, and that to make the stalling to kind of just overcome the stalling. I guess the most challenging part is how do we keep everyone's spirit that is still really high on the project. I think that is one of the effect of stalling, which just makes you demotivated. And I guess having that open communication and then frequent check-in, like just keep having that weekly meetings, even though it's really, really short, could still help with the morale boost for the team, and eventually things will work out. Yeah. I'm not sure whether I can give better tips than that, but that's the consistent thing I have seen based on my experience.
Yeah, no, I love all of that, Yong. That's very useful. And I'm sure a lot of the people in our in our call can relate to that. See a really good question from Mohammedul. So when I see an opportunity for a collaboration, I see that there's a huge knowledge gap and I don't know where to start or how I can contribute and what route I can propose for the research. So can you please guide me on this, how to fill the gap or learn along the way? Nahid, I want to jump back to you. Do you want to take this?
Yeah, I guess I think it like sometimes it is like when you look into let's say someone proposed an idea at a high level in one of the channel and you're looking at. So if you can I feel like it's easier when you have somewhat of a sort of a system level experience and you can think of, okay, this will have this component and maybe in this component I can help. So that's like coming from you. If the original collaborator is kind of like has already broken down some of those pieces, then I think you can pick one of them and kind of work on that. And I think the new ideas typically, at least for me, comes from I guess one is like the ideas that are like more deeper and going vertical, they generally come from work. Sometimes there are like ideas that are more on the horizontal space, like, okay, this is one, this is another, this is another. So that's more of breadth thing. So what like knowing yourself and kind of like what you want to pursue, that can help. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Naid. So moving on to the next question from Sovik. I describe myself as a beginner in research and I struggle to stay focused on one topic long enough to dive deep without getting sidetracked by other ideas. Do you have any tips on maintaining motivations and avoiding distractions? Mohammed, do you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. So this is a hard one. So while you are working on a certain project, you are going to find or stumble upon other ideas that may distract you. So I'll talk about my approach. So I'm just focusing on the output of what I'm doing. So if I find something else, I will take note about this work or this idea and make sure to follow it later. So I'll have this notebook with several ideas that I can make sure that nothing of it I can miss. And so after finishing my work, I can follow up easily. So nothing is lost, fortunately.
Amazing. Thank you, Mohammed. So with that, I'll move on to the final question from the audience, which is from Vinod. And Yong, maybe you can help us answer that. So regarding research papers, I have a two-part question. I would love to hear any strategies for staying focused and staying grounded with research ideas. And how do you keep up with working on your research and stay up to date with the current research that keeps flowing in?
That's a really relevant question, even to me. In the sense that I also have sometimes struggle in keeping up on papers because I think there are two reasons for why the volume can be really inundating. First of all, it's just people are just publishing so much. I think second is also because once you work on your work more, you find that it's a lot of time interconnected with other domains of the research field, and that creates this exponential increase of the papers that you need to read. I don't have good solution, like perfect solution, but I do have some heuristics. First, I tend to look for blogs or work of people that's not archived, but just people who are trying to distill or trying to find connections across different papers. Like for instance, Lillian's blog was one of the examples that come to my mind on how they put together the concurrent work on a particular topic like hallucination or reinforcement learning. And then I think tutorials is also a good way, or coming like for instance, Cohere Connect is one of the best way to actually see what are the work that's like working on the frontier models and it's also pushing the edge of the research domain. I think trying to seek out this type of blog posts or tutorials or talks where people kind of not just present one work as itself, but on a collection of multiple pieces that kind of gives you the insight about how the field is thinking about the problem and what are the relevant work or the people you should seek out from. I think identifying those aspects actually help me navigate the landscape of paper reading much more because I already know what kind of papers or people I should be reaching out to. More importantly, I think this shapes my intuition. I think that's the reason why we want to read paper is try to develop the intuition or understand the problems. I think going beyond just reading individual papers to reading how people think about problem is at least how I've dealt with the inundation or the high volume of papers. Hope that is helpful.
Yeah, that's definitely helpful, Yong. I personally also find those strategies quite useful, referring to blogs or newsletters or even Twitter threads. So that helps in sort of summarizing the huge landscape of information overload that we see nowadays. Okay, so with that, we'll close the Q&A. If there are more questions, we'll try to post an FAQ later at the end of the conference, which you can refer back to get answers to your questions. Yeah, and with I'll quickly like to get to the final segment of our panel, which is our lightning round talk. And I'll quickly ask two lightning round questions, and each of you can go back to back and give your answers to it. So my first question is, if you could collaborate with anyone in the world, who would it be? So maybe Nahid, you can start, and then Yong, Mohammed, and Nathaniel, you can continue.
Yeah, I think for me, like I'm dreaming about dreamer these days. So I think Danijar Hafnar is someone I would really love to collaborate, I guess. Yeah.
Lovely. Yong?
Yeah, I think if I have a chance, I would like to collaborate with Alec Rufford. Like he's the guy behind GPT. Like if you go to understand, like he was like thinking about scaling back in 2018. Like being able to have that intuition and foresight is just incredible. I just wonder how he's thinking about the landscape these days. Yeah.
Amazing. I share that one with you. And Mohammed, what about you?
So I'm a big fan of Colin Raffles' work. So yeah, he would be my choice.
Yeah, I love him too. And what about you, Nathaniel?
I think mine would be Ilya Sutskever. Very interesting work and very interesting person.
Of course. I love all of these answers, and I would love to collaborate with them as well if given a chance. Uh, and so my next final question for the day, myth about collaboration that you want to bust. So starting again with Nahid.
Yeah, I don't know if it's myth, but I think it's we underestimate how important communication is. Like, let's say you commit, okay, I'll give you 5 hours this next week, and you do that and never do any more contribution. I'm totally fine with that. But I think like sometimes what happens is like you're not sure and like you're not communicating. I think that becomes challenging. So I think communication, especially in this context where we're across all over the world, I think that's really underrated, I would say. Yeah.
I agree. Yong, you want to go next?
Yeah, to build on just what Nahid just say, I think another myth is that bigger team does not mean faster progress. I think a smaller team that can clearly communicate, especially when there's uncertainty or unclear, needing more clarity. So I found like balancing that the team size and the progress is one of the things that I have to actively think about most of the time. Yeah.
I agree. I also believe in the power of small teams. And over to you, Mohammed.
Well, I guess mine would be that collaboration should only happen when you have a problem to solve. I think that the greatest benefits of collaborations are discovering new ideas and connecting with people. Yeah, so that should be the main drive of it.
That's so well said. That's lovely. And what about you, Nathaniel?
I think mine would be one myth is you can only work with people that are like you or that have the same background or work in the same discipline. I think that's a big myth. And I think, for example, interdisciplinary work is important. If you work with different people, they have a different background, different perspectives. So I encourage you to work with like people that are completely different from you.
I love that one too, and that's really not given enough thought. I agree. Okay, that it was great seeing all of you again, like after such a long time, and interacting with you. And thank you for sharing your insights and your experience and your research about your research journeys and guiding the new members of our community on how they can contribute and be impactful research collaborators. With that, I'll hand it over back to Marzieh, who will be wrapping us up for the day one of the conference. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And I love seeing all of the applause going for our panelists and Shivalika. Really, really fun and really insightful. Yeah, with that, we are wrapping up day one. Today was about getting inspired and getting started, and tomorrow is about getting more concrete. So we will have a nice informal fireside chat with Ivan tomorrow. We start with that. Bring your questions, bring your topics of discussions, anything you are curious about. And then we'll have a bunch of lightning talks on a few really interesting community-driven and impactful research projects in the last couple of years that we have done. And then in the end, we'll have a brainstorming session. So there will be breakout rooms and you can explore, exchange, and connect. So there will be space for you to take the first steps of just small, manageable, actionable, bringing ideas, topics you are curious about. Maybe you identified an evaluation gap somewhere. Maybe you want to explore a particular annotation challenge. Maybe you are just in general curious to hear about everyone else and join a project and work with them. So really getting more concrete, the first steps of starting a collaboration. And yeah, with that, we are wrapping up day one. Thanks everyone for attending, and also thanks to Madeline and Britannia for coordinating this conference.